And then peppers. So if you guys are anything like us, we typically grow like one of every type of pepper. We love to grow a variety of a bunch of different types of peppers, jalapenos, habaneros, bell peppers, things like that. Like they are so much fun. And I love to have just a wide variety, bunch of different colors. And it's so much fun. And I love like the sweet peppers and the banana peppers, all of those. So we always end up with a whole bunch of peppers. It never fails, which is a great problem to have. I absolutely love having that problem. But we do end up doing a lot of preserving of peppers. So I wanted to make sure that I focus on peppers here. So one of our favorite ways of going about preserving peppers here, um, well, I say are one of our, like, all of these are our favorite ways. Like these are all things that we do. One thing that we have done is to use the dehydrator and dehydrate them. So at this point, all we do is just dry them. And then once they are dry, we will pop them into like a food processor and things like that. Or you can just simply chop them, but I always just use a food processor and pop them in there and blend them up. And then up here, right up there, that picture there is it's just the crushed pepper. So this is like the crushed red peppers that you see at like pizza restaurants and things like that. So we make our own crushed red pepper and it is super tasty, tastes amazing on lots of different things. I know my husband uses it on like everything that I make because I don't like to make things too spicy for the kids. But he wants everything super spicy. So this is a really easy way for him to go about just placing it on the top of everything that we make, and it is super tasty and handy. So Ken says peppers, he doesn't know how to use them. Well, I can say peppers are super amazing. um, I mean, honestly, we eat them in a lot of different ways. So whenever I go about making um, any sort of Mexican food dishes. Like I do a lot of like chicken enchiladas or quesadillas, things like that. I love to take these and saute them in with like onions and garlic. Pretty much with anything that I make, there's a whole bunch of recipes that I start with a base of just sauteing onions and garlic and peppers and just pop all of them together and saute them. Um, so there it's super easy. I on and then like the crushed peppers, like obviously you can use them on like pizzas and things like that, but we can add them on top of like soups and mac and cheese and things like that. And it makes it super like it just adds a bite to it. It adds a kick to it. I love it. And then of course there's always like, you know, jalapeno poppers. Wrap them with some bacon and cream cheese. Super tasty there. One of my favorite ways to eat them whenever we have a whole bunch of peppers. So that's another one of mine too. Um, so Tara wants to know, do I need a dehydrator for cayenne peppers? It will definitely be easier to have a dehydrator, but it's not 100% necessary to dry them. You can just put them out on a sheet flat, and then I would just put them like in an area that's, I mean, you can put them into the sun. Or what we've done too, like we had a bunch of like really tiny peppers at the end of the season one year, and we just chopped the plant and hung it upside down in our window in the kitchen and dried it that way. So I mean, there's really so many ways that you can go about doing this. You don't necessarily have to have a dehydrator, although it does make it faster and easier. Not 100% necessary. Okay, Yvette says, or cayenne pepper recipes. She has orange, red, and a ton of purple. That's a great problem to have. Purple won't stop producing. I love it. Purple's always my favorite, honestly. I I'm a sucker for anything pretty colored that grows outside. So recipes for cayenne peppers, I mean, honestly, a lot of the same things that I was talking about earlier. Um, I like to I like to put a lot of these, I mean, honestly, together and then just put them on top of things. Like I like to dehydrate them, dry them, and make our little crushed peppers and just mix them all together and put it into a and put it on top of any sort of dish that you're making to add a little spicy kick to it. Um, I do want to mention something else too that not necessarily a kitchen recipe, but a garden recipe. It is super helpful is you can actually use actually this crushed red pepper you can use out in the garden as well to help with pest issues or cat issues as well too. Ants, things like that. It'll help a lot with a bunch of different pests. You can also make like a plant spray with the cayenne peppers, especially. That is super amazing and it'll help with a lot of different insects as well. So, not necessarily a kitchen recipe, but a garden recipe that is super helpful to get rid of a lot of pests. And then, so I do want to mention too. So I do a lot of freezing of these peppers too. So I freeze them, and so all I do is just simply pop. I take the stems off, and you can take the membranes and the seeds out if you want to. I typically leave them in just because, like, we want the spice. But if you didn't necessarily want it super spicy, you could always take out the membranes and the seeds inside. But we just simply chop the top off and then put them in a food processor and get them small pieces. And then I lay them flat onto a baking sheet and pop them into a freezer for about 24 hours. And then I put it into a freezer safe Ziploc bag. And then whenever I'm going through, I know I already mentioned that I love to do a lot of cooking with the like sauteing with onions and garlic and peppers. So whenever I'm going through and doing this and I don't have fresh peppers, all I do is just go and I pull out like a spoonful of this mixture from the freezer and then add it to the pan. But I absolutely love having this because it is super helpful and makes it really easy too. And then another way to go about preserving is by simply smoking them too. So this, I will say, is very time consuming. So you need to make sure that you have a lot of time on your hands because it will take, it's kind of an all day process, I feel like, but it was super fun and it definitely made for a unique and different flavor than the other ones. So if you're going for something a little bit different, this might be another really great way for you to preserve. And if you have time, it's fun. We had fun. We just hung out all day and did this. And yeah, it's super fun. We did it outside on our smoker, and it's makes it very unique and tasty. But again, it's all your personal preference, like what type of flavor you're going for, or what you're going to be using it for in the future. But all of these are really great options. I will say the easiest thing and the fastest thing to do is going to be to freeze. But definitely, like doing the crushed red peppers, it's definitely going to be pretty easy as well.